right, so this video is going to connect with the video that I just did relating to America being Babylon. And by the way, if you think you have something to substantiate America being Babylon, biblically, go ahead, put it in the comments. Feel free. But I noticed with that video, I really focused on the 7 heads, not so much the 10 horns. So what I'm going to do right now is touch on the 10 horns. I'm going to use the same image. So let's go to that image real quick, right? So we see here, clear as day, that it says the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is NATO. Nothing proving it. The 7 heads is the 7 governments or kingdoms ruled by Esau. Nothing to substantiate this either. We then see over here a list of 10 different countries. None of this is even biblical. It's just a list of 10 countries. No connection to show this is what Daniel is prophesying about, or Esdras or John. Nothing to substantiate it. So, again, I focused more on this the last time, the 7 heads. I want to address this 10 horns. Now, I'm going to say this, then substantiate it. People focus more on the 10 horns and naming either a bunch of kings randomly, try to identify them by name, or they'll do like this and just list a gang of countries. The thing with this is that, again, I'm going to say it, then prove it. These 10 horns are actually 10 specific kings. It's insignificant who they are. The significance relies on the little horn that stems from these 10 horns. That's the point. And the Bible reveals that person by name also. But what we're going to do now is go to Daniel. We're going to go to Daniel 7 and verse 8. It says, and not me, it says, I considered the horns. This is the same horns that we're referencing from that image. And behold, there came up among them another little horn. Again, I said it, now I'm showing it, okay? The little horn is a product of the 10 horns, okay? Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, in the mouth speaking great things. So the significance is highlighted here, okay? You have 10 horns, another little horn coming from the original 10. 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the root. And I notice when people read this, they just randomly start doing like that image. They'll plug in random ideas that they formulated to say, this is that. Well, that is this. Woo-de-woo, okay? Which is all magically modern day nations or events or people. So in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, because you're going to see how these are men. Okay, so this also connects to, in the same chapter, but verse 20, it says in verse 20, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than its fellows. That's important too. It's stout, but the little horn is derived from the 10 horns. And then you have the fall of 3 horns that, again, people will, and I've made the error of assuming that it was the prior 3 nations, but again, horns and nations are not the same thing. You might have 4 horns or kings in one nation. So don't assume because you see 10 horns that it's 10 kings and it's automatically 10 nations. That's one of the biggest errors that people make with this. So let's continue. Verse 24, same chapter. It says, not me, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom. If you remember in the previous video, I showed how with the Greek king, it said a king. Or right here, we see 10 horns out of this kingdom. This is one kingdom. That's why it's important to know that because you see 10 horns, it doesn't mean that it's 10 nations or 10 kings or 10 kingdoms. It's one kingdom, 10 horns. Daniel says this, not me. So out of this kingdom are 10 kings. You have 10 kings. Again, out of one nation. 10 kings out of one nation. Again, the significance is not to try to plug in names and try to find out who these. It's the horn or king that comes from them. Watch. And another shall arise after them. That's the significance right there. The horn that is derived from the initial 10. It says it, not me. And he shall be diverse from the first. Well, we just read that he would be more stout than his fellows. If you know what the word stout means, it's like saying rugged. He's more, if you depend on where you're from, he's more gangster than his predecessors, however you want to put it. He's more about that life than from where he came from. All right. And he shall subdue 3 kings. I just mentioned. So these three precepts in this chapter, verse 8, verse 20, and verse 24, are saying the same thing, but it's giving you more as you go along. You know that these are 10 horns, but they're 10 kings out of one nation, and that there's a little horn who's going to come out of them. He's going to be a certain way. Okay. I don't see NATO, EU, Belgium, la land, whatever. I don't see all of that. You have to like be lazy and just read one sentence, add in a bunch of, I feel, I think, I heard, I'm regurgitating. I'm just going to stick with what this is Daniel talking. All right. So he shall subdue 3 kings. That happened in the book of Maccabees. It lists them by name, the kings that were subdued and the nation that subdued them, we know to be Rome. Chapter 8 of First Maccabees. It's a long, Judah Maccabee is hearing about the reputation of the Romans. They did this and they did that and woo, 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 woo. They subdued that king and that king and that king. It's in there. I actually made a video on that already. It lists the 3 kings by name. So moving forward, I have more evidence to show that a king is called a horn. Same man, Daniel, he says, not me. The ram which you saw having 2 horns are the what? Kings of the Medes and Persians. So we see that a horn again is being showed as a king. Just like we see right here. We have 2 different sources to show that even Christ was referred to as a king or horn of salvation. You can't make this up. So the last time I checked, Christ is not a nation himself. He's sent to save a nation, but he's not that nation. So as we go back to that image, we see this laundry list of nations right here, these 10 nations, because they're trying to force this to be what Daniel's prophesying about, because whoever made this doesn't know that the significance of the 10 horns is that it's about the little horn that came from them, from the Roman nation that subdued 3 kings in Maccabees chapter 8. So I don't see this 10. What is this? Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Greece, Ireland, England, West Germany. I don't see that. I don't see that in the Bible. Somebody literally made this up. This is just folly. This image is straight up folly. Whoever would even believe this doesn't care about evidence. It's just, hey, I saw this image, such and such is teaching it over here. I'm just going to regurgitate it. And if somebody like me comes along and asks them, well, where'd you get this information? I'm the one called a scoffer. It's mind boggling. But again, the emphasis is not the 10 horns, identifying them by name. I'm going to try to go in all these history books and let my brain explode trying to figure it. It's the little horn, which we know is Tiberius Caesar in the book of Luke. Listen by name. Luke chapter 3, I think. So go there. I mean, I can do all I can do. We got to stop being lazy and looking at silly images, and we got to read for ourselves and not be afraid to ask questions and being called a scoffer if something don't line up. So that's all I have for now, as it is written, and I'm out.